Hi, Michael. I actually got both of your emails, so either of them is fine. You don't have to use the Creighton ones if you don't want to. Okay, so I think that these will work. Some recommendations just about how to approach these. You can see how I placed them up here, and I would recommend this method just because usually when we do a sequence of three, the odd one out typically has to go in the middle. And since this one is the most different from the other two, then that just makes sense. So some things to match up would be the contrast. This one has an intense amount of black, has very high contrast, and so this one would need that. You'd have to bump up the contrast for this one, and probably a little bit for this one. It does have some, but it's probably not quite the extreme black that this one has. Other things might be to decide once. Sometimes you have to decide based on the one that's the most different. These two are the most similar in terms of lighting and coloring. This and subject matter. But this one is quite different enough where sometimes the decisions you make for the other two might be based on what this one can handle. So I would say maybe up your when you use your levels, you're going to increase the contrast. So don't use brightness contrast for this. You'll see it in the videos I say avoid it. But with your levels, you're going to increase the black, and then you'll probably also increase the white. And you might fiddle around with the middle value of gray just to see if you want it more light or dark as an image. And then allow that again to teach you how to deal with these two. What you don't want to do is to make these two match perfectly and then have to make this one match the other two because this one's so different, it'll be hard to do that. So make this one as close as you can in terms of contrast, both in the amount of darks that it has and the amount of light. This one, you might not have to do a ton with color, but my guess is that you will basically, you don't have a lot of color to deal with, so the browns will have to match somehow, which they probably honestly already do a little bit. You've got some red brown here, you've got some red brown here, maybe a little bit here, so you probably won't have to do a ton with color matching. And then these two, I'm just gonna put these closer together for the moment so you can kind of see. The sky is close, but it's not exactly the same. So you can decide either this one gets to be a bit lighter or this one gets to be a bit darker, and you can skew the cyan or the blue a little bit with color temperature or saturation. There's a few different ways that you'll see in the videos how to do it. And then the greens are the other things that you probably want to match. I have a feeling that the browns already match pretty well. You probably won't have to do a lot with that, but the obvious other ones would be the blues and the greens. So the greens, you know, this one's a little bit lighter. These ones are a bit darker. You can choose to either have the trees match each other, or you can make the grasses match each other, or both. Sometimes you're able to do both, but at least have the greens match on some level, even if they don't match on both. Like this one just feels a little bit brighter. This one's a little bit darker. And it could be when you lighten this image up a little bit, then maybe the stuff starts to match a little bit. It's always hard to tell until you really get into the stuff. The other only colors that I feel like you could try to match, it might be a little bit of the reds in here and some of the red on the roof. I don't think that there's a lot of red in here really to pick up. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you have further questions. As you really start to get into it and you feel like you have time, let's say that you're working on this today, you can probably turn it in time for me to give you further feedback before you turn it in for critique. But again, I'll just give you another critique if you turn it in at that time, which usually just works fine. Because you're giving me these images ahead of time, your critique will be less intense probably. So yeah, great images. I like the content. It's similar enough in subject matter that they go really well together, but they look really great as a set. This might be something that you would want to print out for your mom, actually. I think you said it's from where her farm was. So good work so far, and I will see your new stuff too. Oh, lastly, these two could probably get switched around a little bit like the last two. I don't know that makes a lot of difference. For me though, I kind of like the angle that this one's coming in at. It's kind of like pushing your eye towards the middle, whereas this one just kind of, it doesn't do that kind of direction. So that's probably the one that I would choose, but it's not the have to. You could flip these around. The other thing you could do instead is you could stack them vertically if you feel like that makes more sense to you. Either way is fine. Most people tend to go horizontal, but you could totally do vertical. All right. Talk to you soon.